Hello students. In this session, we are going to discuss campaign planning with special reference to advertising and integrated marketing communications. The objectives of this session are to know the etymology of campaign, to understand the different types of campaigns that are planned and executed by different stakeholders. Also, to know the elements of an advertising campaign or an integrated marketing communication campaign. It is also to discuss the stages of campaign planning and the steps involved in campaign development and execution. So let us begin by understanding the etymology of the word campaign. Campaign is a Latin word campana meaning field or open countryside. It was attributed to mean the eastern French city Champagne because of its wide open countryside. Interestingly, the British too used campaign in around the 14th century to describe the open field. Institutionally or organizationally, it was applied in the 17th century for military officers conducting series of well-coordinated activities in the field to upstage the enemy. Later, various institutions adopted it to represent a specific form and typology. At the outset, now that we understand the origin and genesis of the word, it is important to have clarity as to what is a campaign. Fundamentally, there are three distinguishing features of any campaign. Number one, it is the series of interrelated and interconnected activities, which highlights rhythm, that is repeatedness, and multiplicity. Number two, it is goal directed. That is, it is designed to achieve some predetermined objectives or preset goals. Number three, it is planned, meaning a structured planning process, a step-by-step process based on strategy and tactics is followed while developing and executing. Another salient aspect of campaigns are that they are time-bound, that there is a duration to a particular campaign, a fixed duration in which a campaign is released and it ends. Now we move on to the next aspect, and that is what are the different types of campaigns we see around. Several researchers, including Roger and Shorey, identified four major elements in all communication campaigns. Number one, it employs series of communication activities which are both personal as well as non-personal. Number two, it aims to achieve specific outcomes. Number three, it is targeted at a large number of audiences, which may be anonymous, heterogeneous, or segmented. Number four, it is time-bound. On the basis of purpose, communication campaigns can be classified as commercial and non-commercial campaigns. Commercial campaigns are the advertising and marketing campaigns which are done by business enterprises with the purpose to gain a favorable advantage for their brand or organization to accentuate the profitability of their business. The primary intent of these campaigns is profit making and competitive differentiation. Have a look at one of the examples of commercial campaigns in this Fevikwik ad campaign. Fevikwik No Chip Chip No Jig Jig ad is an award-winning campaign by the Indian brand made by Ogilvy and Mather, one of the biggest advertising agencies in India. Next, we move on to the non-commercial campaigns. Non-commercial campaigns can be further classified into public service campaigns and advocacy campaigns. Public service campaigns are aimed to spread awareness about a good cause. These campaigns inform, educate, and motivate the audiences with respect to adoption of a new technology, a new drug. It tells them about the cause and effect of a disease, provides them ideas on better health and sanitation, gives them advantages of training and skill development. For example, the popular campaigns like Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, the Pulse Polio campaign, Beti Bachao and Beti Padhao campaign, along with the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan are some of the noteworthy mentions in the public service area. Another set of non-commercial campaigns are advocacy campaigns. Advocacy campaigns are especially designed to set or reset the agenda on a key issue or policy matter. These campaigns aim to inform, persuade and mobilize public support to create a climate of change in policy on political, social, economic or technological issues. These campaigns frame a particular issue in a manner that it generates mass conversations to push for a new policy or change in the existing one. For example, the Dark is Beautiful campaign by Women of Wonder Wow in Chennai to mobilize support against beauty prejudices which have been created by the fairness industry in India. Another notable example has been the Happy to Bleed campaign against the ban on entry of menstruating women in Sabrimala temple. Lot of brands like Whisper also advocated this particular campaign. A more recent illustration of a public service campaign is shown in this slide. Look at this example of Lifebuoy. This particular campaign is a hygiene awareness campaign by Lifebuoy through a series of print advertisements, television commercial and digital videos where celebrity endorsers are also used. This campaign was released during the times of pandemic. In today's lecture, we are focusing our discussion sharply on commercial campaigns, popularly known as advertising campaigns or brand campaigns. According to Dun & Bourbon, an advertising campaign includes a series of advertisements placed in various media that are designed to meet objectives and are based on analysis of marketing and communication situations. Here is an example of the campaign Incredible India. It's an award-winning campaign by Ogilvy and Mather. This particular campaign, Find What You Seek, is made to persuade tourists from other countries to come to India to its various destinations. This campaign was launched in Egypt, Cairo in 2017. On the basis of time period and advertising expenditure, advertising, marketing or commercial campaigns as we know them can be of two types: burst campaigns and drip campaigns. Burst campaigns are also called as disruptive campaigns because they focus on getting attention by using above the line media, below the line media, interactive marketing activities, event sponsorships in short bursts of 3 to 4 weeks. The primary aim of the campaign is to create visibility and instant impact. The second category is drip campaigns. Drip campaigns are also referred to as nurture campaigns. They are long-term campaigns to achieve brand building objectives of brand salience, brand image, brand personality, brand experience and brand value. One or two media vehicles, that is web mailers, e-mailers, are carefully selected to spread their message bit by bit and in an ongoing manner. The primary aim of the campaign is to secure a final purchase decision or the change in attitude of the consumers. While planning an advertising campaign, it is important to first look into the factors that influence the strategy and the tactics. The factors are the product life cycle. Before campaign development and design, it is important to identify the phase at which the product is in its life cycle. If the product is at the introductory stage, a launch ad campaign, especially a teaser campaign, is created with the purpose to create buzz and hype. If the product is growing in sales and units of consumption, then a competitive advertising campaign to spread awareness and knowledge about its features, strengths, benefits, unique salience of the product is preferred. But if the product is at the maturity stage, that it has already established itself in the market or it's steady in its sales curve, then comparative advertising or corporate advertising campaign can serve in the consolidation of the brand. When the product is saturated in the market, that is, it has no increase in sales or consumption and no further growth, explicit comparative or combative campaigns are often resorted to. At the decline stage, when the product is losing ground and sales are continuously dipping down, it is time to do a reminder advertising campaign. Hence, we see that at various stages of the product life cycle, there is a requirement of different types of advertising campaigns. Next we have is the overall business environment. The overall business environment also affects the type and duration of the campaign. If the business, especially in your product category, is facing issues pertaining to tax structures, trade policies, the advertising expenditure will be directly affected. This will shrink the scope of campaigns as well. Periods of boom in the business cycle encourage the advertisers to invest more in campaigns, and periods of depression scales down advertising expenditure. The next important factor is the political climate. Advertising campaigns are a marker of a market-driven consumption milieu. A stable ruling government with the requisite representation in the parliament creates a facilitating effect on business. The industry feels hopeful about the growth agenda and believes that a stable government will formulate policies to make businesses sustainable. So, incline in business is also dependent on the political inclination of the government. A growth inclined political orientation boosts the business through monetary and fiscal measures, leading to expansion for space for advertising. Another important factor that influences advertising campaigns is the social system. A social system is the organization of relationship and roles within the primary and the secondary group. For example, roles played by mother, father, child, or roles of men, women, and others in the institution of marriage. Issues of representation, position vis-a-vis class, gender, identity, and caste become causal factors in campaign planning. In fact, transitions in the social system are also reflected in the campaigns today. For example, lot of campaigns were made on the scrapping of Article 377 by brands like Amul, Durex, Flipkart. In fact, hashtag the Seatbelt Crew campaign by Vithu, the safety app of Channel V, and Ogilvy and Mather on the rights of transgenders was also made. Moving on to the next important factor, and that is the digital disruptions. Campaign planning are most affected by the disruptions caused by digital technologies. Digital disruption means how, owing to the new media technologies, business models change, thereby disrupting the existing market systems. It provokes the business to re-evaluate the current marketing practices and change the value proposition of the brand. These changing value propositions of the promises that the brand are making and the technological interventions, they stimulate the advertising agencies to come up with novel campaign themes and new media innovations customized to current value propositions. It is time to understand the stages in planning an ad campaign. An advertising campaign is prepared by an advertising agency on the behalf of an advertiser to be consumed by the audiences. The various stages involved in this process of interaction between advertiser, agency, and audiences for a particular product. What are the various steps that are involved or stages that are involved in this process of campaign planning? The first step is securing an agency brief. After successfully pitching in for a client and bagging the account planning executive asks for an agency brief from the advertiser. Now, the agency brief is a document which contains information about the advertiser's company, its vision, its mission statement, its product, competition, what are the different consumers, management, and what are the past campaigns they have done. After securing the agency brief, the next step is to brief the agency teams. The account planning executive studies the brief and shares the detailed document with various departments such as the creative department, the media planning, and the client servicing department. The account planning team updates the members on advertising budget or how much is the client willing to spend in this 1 year. These discussions lead to adopting a budgetary method and identification of the consumer audiences. Next in line is the creative head preparing the creative brief. So now the creative head prepares the creative brief outlining the goals of the campaign, the message strategy and executions to his team of copywriters and artists based on the target segment which has been identified and the campaign goals ascertained. This leads to them going into the first plans board meeting. In the first plans board meeting, the creative and media planning teams, they come together in an extensive session of brainstorming. After the creative brief has been given to the copy and art teams, they ideate to develop the campaign themes, the verbal and visual metaphors, and the elements which are going to be used in that particular campaign. These ideas are discussed in terms of the media mix and innovations that can be used on various media platforms to shape the campaign. Once these ideas are fixed and the brainstorming is over, everybody goes down to making the campaign scripts and producing the rough sketches for the print advertisements. That leads them to the second plans board meeting. In the second plans board meeting, comprehensive rough layouts, storyboards are presented by the creative team, and the media planners also lay out their entire media plan and the schedule they have prepared. The ads are readapted as per media selection, and the final rounds of discussion on creative and media integration takes place. Once all of it is done, then the ads are now produced. Now the final artworks are ready to shoot. Storyboards are being prepared. Radio, television and digital ads are shot, recorded and edited either by a production house or in-house. Vendors are selected for printing of outdoor, transit and POP advertising. Now the ads are ready to be presented to the client. So the next step is presenting the campaign to the client. The client servicing team now takes the advertising campaign to the client. The entire advertising campaign is shown to the client for approvals. Any corrections or changes, if suggested by the clients, are carried out in the advertising campaign at this stage. You must know that the client's nod of consent for the campaign is an imperative must. Once the client has approved the campaign, we are all set to roll the campaign. Media bookings are done to roll out the campaign. The ads are published on various print media, broadcast on various television channels, and uploaded on the web. The campaign is now for everyone to see. It is now presented to the audiences. Now that the campaign is amongst the audiences, it is time to monitor the campaign. It is important to know and check the progress of the campaign, especially for nurture or drip campaigns. Keeping tabs on the campaign will also create possibilities for a remedial action at the earliest. And the last step in this process of campaign planning is evaluating a campaign. The campaign effectiveness is gauged either internally by research and development teams in the large advertising agencies, or it is outsourced to research affiliates to know the objective and outcome relationship with respect to the campaign. Remember, the campaigns have to be measured in terms of the efficacy of the objectives achieved. So these stages give us a clear picture of the steps which are involved in creating an advertising campaign. The first step which is involved in creating an advertising campaign is the review of the marketing plan. Now the campaign planning begins with a review of the marketing plan. At this stage, a careful study of situation analysis, marketing mix, what are the different marketing strategies and approaches which have been undertaken. It is actually to gain a helicopter view of the product which is to be promoted and various external and internal factors which are affecting the product and the organization. Primarily, we assess the situation of the industry as well with regards to its practices, regulatory frameworks and growth patterns. We also do a product review in terms of its current market share, its strengths and weaknesses, the SWOT analysis, its demand, supply, price, labeling and packaging. This is followed by a detailed review of the existing channel of product distribution and modes of transport. The second step in creating advertising campaigns is understanding consumer behavior. So the next step is to understand the consumer behavior and the buying process. Through secondary sources, that is consumer databases, various personal, psychological and socio-cultural factors are looked into that influence consumers while making purchase-related decisions. It includes categorization of consumers into various segments as well. For example, consumers may be classified as, through secondary sources, that is consumer databases, various personal, psychological and socio-cultural factors are looked into that influence the consumers while making purchase-related decisions. The third factor is identifying the target audience. Determining the target audience is deciding to whom this advertising campaign will be addressed. The process of target identification starts with zeroing in on the type of market, followed by segmenting the diverse heterogeneous mass of audiences on the basis of geography, demography, lifestyle, consumption, socio-cultural identity and forming homogeneous clusters. Measures like propensity to consume, size of the market segment, return on consumer investment, sales potential form a criteria to select the most germane cluster or group most relevant to the brand. Set against these criteria, the target audience segment is identified. Next in line is setting the objectives. Foremost attempt is to define a goal and set a clear, specific, reliable, measurable objectives to achieve the goals. This approach is called as a Dagmar approach, which was given by Richard Coley in 1961. An advertising objective is a brand communication task to be completed in a given period of time. Now, there can be numerous types of objectives for an advertising campaign. An advertising campaign can be done to introduce a new product development, to increase the frequency of consumption of use, to introduce a new line extension, to suggest an alternative use of a particular product, to encourage additional consumption of a particular project. Like for instance, the Pepsodent ad which says, मैं एक बार नहीं 10 times brush करता हूँ. To underline a comparative advantage of possessing a particular brand or owning a particular brand in terms of a car advertising itself, in terms of mileage, in terms of efficiency, in terms of more boot space, to create curiosity around a particular product or a brand. That is when a fruity campaign said, क्या आप दिगेन वर्मा को जानते हैं? क्या कभी दिगेन वर्मा से मिले हैं? So that is creating curiosity about a brand before being launched to dispel rumors and false impressions. आपकी मैगी सेफ है या मेरी मैगी सेफ है. So this particular campaign was intended to dispel rumors and false impressions, to salvage damage or mitigate crisis. There are times when you do a campaign to announce a change in policy of an organization. And then there are times when you do a particular campaign to remind the buying prospects about where to buy and how to buy and buy now. So after setting the objectives, it is time to zero in the campaign theme. An advertising campaign must find a theme that will remain consistent in all ads across media vehicles. The theme of the campaign is often a keyword or a phrase that sums up the strategic way by which a brand will do its communication task. For example, the theme of Uber's "इसे अपनी गाड़ी समझो" campaign is अपनापन or belongingness. After ascertaining the campaign theme, it is time to formulate the creative strategy and executions. The creative process in advertising campaign is a pyramidal structure. You have the advertising strategy at the base, you have the big idea and the creative execution subsequently, followed by tactics in the end. That is forming the entire creative process. For example, if you take the case of the Dhara Oil My Daddy's Strongest campaign, the strategy is to communicate that Dhara keeps you healthy. The big idea is that children feel happy and proud of strong fathers, and the executions are of slice of life format, emotional appeal and verbal and visual elements, along with the tagline "My Daddy's Strongest" in creating engaging storyline. These stories are tactically presented in newspapers as front page solus ads or half page advertisements along with 45-second television commercials. The creative strategy is about what is the message and how will this message be presented in various ads. The process begins by finding the big idea that encapsulates the campaign theme and will continue further as we identify the nature and type of advertising appeal to be used, the advertising format in print, radio, television and digital, along with the selection of the advertisements. The advertising concepts will be depicted through verbal, that is choice of headlines, body copies, spoken dialogues, taglines, non-verbal, that is pictures and graphics, along with technical mandatories like logotypes, nameplates, address, trademarks, stamp elements in series of interrelated and interconnected advertisements. After you have a creative strategy in hand, you develop a media strategy and plan. The campaign objectives are translated into media objectives. For example, the ad campaign for Kellogg's Women required to reach a specific geodemographic segment of urban city-based women. So the media plan proceeds with a comparative analysis of the strengths and weaknesses of the available media options in terms of their reach, continuity, frequency and impact. After understanding the media environment, audience estimation and allocation of budget for the media, broad media categories are selected from which specific media vehicles, innovations and forms are arrived at. This leads to creation of the media mix. By using media scheduling strategies, the campaign is put to timelines with regards to the choice of media type, vehicle to be used, frequency of insertions, cost of the advertisement, day or dates, position and placement along with day parts. This media schedule is sent to select media houses along with the release orders. So the next step in making the advertising campaign is releasing the campaign. The campaign is presented to the target audience either in an integrated manner or a cross-mediated mode. Ads are now visible to the audiences to see, read, opine, comment and act upon. The campaign continues as planned for the fixed time frame from start to finish. For example, the Big Billion campaign, which was released on 4th of October 2018 to inform about the Big Billion Days sale at Flipkart, the e-commerce provided from 10th October to 14th October. Another example is the Indus Bank campaign, Keep It Single, along with the Sony Pictures Network campaign, Koi Kasar Nahi. And the last step in campaign planning is campaign review. After the campaign has run its course or has completed its cycle, it is time to review the response of the audience towards the message, the media, and its ability to achieve the campaign goal. The hierarchy of effects in consumer decision making is assessed for all campaigns. So in this lecture, we've understood the various steps involved in planning a campaign and what are the stages involved in development and planning of a particular campaign.